What are the strongest weapons in One Piece? Imu's demonic spear, the supreme great blades, a squirrel? Yeah, let's actually start with that one. The Elbaf arc has introduced one of the most powerful weapons in all of One Piece history, and one of the cutest as well. Seriously, I am nuts for this guy, cause he's a squirrel. Get it? Ragnir is a massive hammer that ate the Ratatoskr devil fruit and is wielded by the giant prince Loki. But the thing that makes Ragnir one of the single most powerful and unique weapons is that Loki doesn't even need to wield him for him to do some absolute ridiculous damage. In fact, it turns out that Loki even has to defeat him in his hammer form to even earn the right to fight alongside him to begin with. But you know what's even cooler than being cool? Being ice cold. Because if being a magical living flying hammer wasn't enough to you, don't worry, Oda was nice enough to sprinkle on some crazy ice powers as well. Because this is not just any old ice, Ragnir's ice is seemingly unbreakable by anyone excluding himself. Loki used Ragnir's ice attack to freeze the Holy Knight Gunko in a giant ice cube, and not even a direct hit with King of the World Imu's Omen flames could break her free. And if you allow me to dip into speculation territory for just a moment here, that kind of makes my theory brain feel really ooey and gooey, because I do think that this hammer could have a connection to a group of characters called the Hammer Clan, the legendary shipwrights of Elbaf who also constructed the ancient weapon Pluton. More on that later. I do think that it's highly possible that these legendary shipwrights of the Galela are the same frozen giants that we see frozen in the laboratory on Punk Hazard, and if this is actual Ragnir ice, that could explain really well why the world government or anyone else has never been able to thaw any of these bad boys out. But Ragnir is of course far from the only living weapon in One Piece, because we've seen plenty of weapons that ate different zone fruits and came to life. The first one was all the way back in Alabasta with Lasso, the cannon, who is also a dog, and of course there's the most formidable blade in the series, more powerful even than Supreme Great Blades, Funk Freet. I mean, give this guy to the Chad Mihawk instead of the Virgin Spandam, and he's top one in the universe. Oh, sorry, I'm double checking, and apparently Funk Freet is not a top tier, and this section is actually not supposed to be about Lasso or him, but the Cerberus, the signature weapon of Shanks' twin brother, Vigilant Shamrock, commander of the Holy Knights, who has the power to transform into a Cerberus, the three-headed beast of Greek legend. Now, what's really weird is that as of writing of this video, we actually have no confirmation that the sword did eat a Cerberus devil fruit. But hey, I mean, there is a precedent to this kind of thing, so I'm gonna go ahead and assume that that's what we're working with here, but it could also be some crazy different ability. Also, I think now's as good a time as ever to clarify quickly that in this video, I'm not counting weapons that were fully made with devil fruit powers, so while something like Cerberus, which was already presumably a sword that was then fed a fruit, does count, something like Kizaru's light sword or Kid's big railgun isn't gonna count for this one. Really, when I say weapons here, I do mean things that people would wield in combat. Think swords plus, more than ancient weapons of untold mass destructions. Those could be their own videos, so just let me know if you want to see that in the comments. But back now to the Cerberus. It would be one thing if the sword just transformed into a Cerberus, but this blade has a lot more going on. It spews out these black flames that are characteristic of the dark powers of the Abyss for one. Each of the dog's head can also stick a sword blade out of its mouth, and those three heads can actually just fly around out of the sword independently. And it has some pretty serious power as well, considering that Cerberus was able to majorly wound Loki, who is just straight up one of the most durable characters in the entire series. Now, Shamrock has only really appeared in a handful of chapters so far, and I'm pretty certain he's only given us a taste of what the Cerberus sword is actually truly capable of. And once he gets in a fight with an opponent who is not chained to a tree, I'm pretty stoked to see what this thing can actually do. Also, I gotta say, the Cerberus sword does kind of make you wonder. I mean, Shanks also has a sword that's named after another Greek mythological creature, Griffon. Did he potentially get his sword during his brief stint in the Holy Land? And could that also have a zone form or an animal form transformation? Interestingly enough, the anime almost seems to have given us a hint that this could be the case, because his attack against Kid outside of Elbaf actually does take the shape of a griffin. Now this only appears in the anime, so it could be a little extra sauce that Toei is throwing in on the attack here, but I do think it would be pretty sick to see a griffon and a Cerberus going at it when the two twins finally meet again. But you know who else has a weapon to be reckoned with? Shamrock's boss, the big man himself, Emu. As we now have finally found out, Emu seems to be wielding a staff in his devil form with a short blade on one end and an opening on the other. I guess technically you would call this thing a glaive. I know a lot about One Piece, but I only dabble in medieval weaponry, sadly. Probably should study up on that. But from the opening, a cloud of Omen appears, which Emu can then shape into seemingly any form he desires. It can act as a cannon, blasting out Omen projectiles, but he also transforms the dark energy into a morning star, a flail, and various forms of swords. And the really interesting thing about the swords is that each shape seems to have a very specific name. When he stabs Loki from above, he calls the sword the Blade of Judgment, Nemesis, after the Greek goddess of retribution. However, he then later reveals another technique called the Blade of Wrath, Gram, which seems to be named for a sword in Norse mythology, Grammar, I guess, the Norse word for wrath, which is pretty metal. But I also suspect that we've only still seen the tip of the iceberg of what this mysterious weapon can do, and only time will tell if we'll get a name for the weapon in general, and not just for its individual techniques, or if it is just multiple weapons fused into one. But if I had to come up with a name for it right now, I think I'd call it Kevin. Let's now get back to swords that are not made of evil Omen energy, shall we? And Yoru, of course, is the sword wielded by the current strongest swordsman in the One Piece world, Dracul Mihawk. During the Baratie arc, very early on, this sword gave us the first little appetizer of a warlord's true power when a single long-distance slash cut an entire galleon in half. Now, by today's standards, this attack seems fairly quaint, but back during the East Blue, this was the first glimpse that the story gave us of what pirates in the Grand Line were truly capable of. But now we actually know a little bit more about Yoru, like the fact that it's a black blade. But what is a black blade? Well, it seems to be a sword that's been turned permanently black and becomes exponentially more durable and powerful. Honestly, they're actually still really mysterious at this point in the story. We don't know how to actually make one and what it truly means, but there are some clues. According to Mihawk at least, any sword can theoretically become a black blade like Yoru, and according to Onimaru and Wano, the legendary swordsman Ryuma, who wielded Shusui, the only other actual known black blade in the story, it grew to become a black blade over his history in battle. And Kozuki Sukiyaki, former shogun of Wano, tells Zoro that if he manages to turn Odin's blade Enma into a black blade, it may rise in rank to become considered a supreme grade blade as well. And if Shusui or Enma ever did become fully fledged supreme grade blades, they would definitely earn dedicated spots on this list as well. However, the story still has not revealed to us how exactly a black blade is actually made. I mean, the operating theory in the fandom has been that the blade has been permanently imbued with armament hockey, but that's still unconfirmed, and honestly at this point this option feels kind of underwhelming. I personally suspect that there might be way more to it, because Enma is already permanently imbued with Kozuki Oden's hockey, but of course hasn't become a black blade yet, so there must be some other trick to it that only the fewest and most selected swords masters can actually do. But one thing I would absolutely bet here is that by the end of the series, Zoro will make his Wado Ichimonji, and possibly his other swords as well, into black blades, ultimately earning all of them a spot on this list eventually. After all, he will need a black blade if he plans on taking down the wielder of the Shodai Kitetsu, Saint Ethan Baron Venus Juro, who does wield another one of the extremely rare One Piece supreme grade blades, one of only 12 of the most powerful blades in the world. Now, the Kitetsu blades specifically are known as cursed swords. The first that we saw is Zoro's Sandai Kitetsu. Then, of course, we also saw the Nidai Kitetsu during Wano. However, his eventual opponent has the oldest and most formidable one of them all. During Zoro and Nasjiro's very brief clash in Egghead Island, Zoro was shocked as he recognized the signifiers of a Kitetsu blade, though I gotta say it was very gratifying for me, who's been saying this ever since Samurai Gandhi showed up in like chapter 200. Fans have of course very long thought that this dude's sword was the Shodai Kitetsu based on a lot of similarities in the design, but seeing this sword finally in action after all these years, absolutely priceless. Nazjuro's coolest feat so far was disabling every pacifista on Egghead's coastline in a matter of seconds with it, and doing that so precisely that they were only temporarily disabled instead of just destroying them, so the government could actually still use them for themselves in the future. Part of Shodai Kitetsu's cursed properties seem to be that his sword also has ice powers, possibly relating to Brooks's icy powers supposedly coming from the cold of the underworld. And while we're on the topic of supreme great blades here, I should also mention the other 3 that are confirmed besides Yoru and the Shodai Kitetsu. All of these blades should really probably deserve a spot on this list too, but there's just not a lot to say about them other than who owned them, and we don't know if they have any other special properties. We also know about Goldie Roger's sword, Ace, Whitebeard's Naginata, Murakumogiri, and Admiral Fujitora's Yakuza Kazin. These are also in the same class as Yoru and the Shodai Kitetsu as part of the strongest 12 swords in One Piece. Now, word's still out there on whether we'll actually learn about all 12 of the Supreme Great Blades by the end of the story, because we are in the final saga and there are only so many swordsmen left at this point. We'll just have to hope that Oda tosses that info in an SBS so that my thirst for knowledge can finally be quenched on this topic too. The SBS is the quenchiest. Nothing is quenchier than that. But we are still not done talking about swords here. Specifically, I want to talk about some big swords. The biggest swords, to be precise. The giant sword stuck in the Atom Tree specifically, and right along with it also we can throw in the giant katana outside of Onigashima. I hope you agree that we just need to find out who was actually swinging these giant swords around in the distant past, and I just really want that sword. Like, this is not overcompensating, right, or anything, but is it a bit presumptuous of me to say that this sword, which we've only seen stuck in a tree so far, not really doing anything, should probably be one of the strongest weapons in One Piece? No, I would say, because just think about it. Use your imagination. If someone picked this thing up, please be Giant Luffy, please be Giant Luffy, please be Giant Luffy, they're not gonna be swinging this at enemies, I think. They're gonna start cutting entire islands in half. Alright, let's take a break from swords now and talk about something different, something rounder. Maybe some kind of big old cannonball. Now, cannon obviously would be one thing, but I definitely would not want Garp to throw a cannonball at me. That's even worse, actually. And even better, sometimes we recently found out Garp actually uses a massive iron ball bigger than his own ship on a chain and then just flails that thing around for just absolute maximum devastation. Garp the fist? Dude, more like Garp the balls. Beauty, of course, is in the eye of the beholder, and sometimes the strength of a weapon kind of does come down to its user. In just the same way that a master swordsman can potentially turn any sword into a black blade, Garp makes the humble cannonball one of the scariest projectiles in the series, just because he's at the other end of it. I mean, the guy literally has a technique called the Meteor Fist Shower in which he throws 1,000 cannonballs at his opponents. There is a reason pirates hate to see this dude coming. But other times, weapons aren't just things that you wield, sometimes they're also things that you wear, and that's the case with Vinsmoke Sanji's raid suit. These technologically advanced outfits turn the Germa 66 family into the evil Power Rangers, immediately giving them enhanced speed, strength, and durability. They have bulletproof capes and hover shoes, but where the suits really start shining are their unique abilities. Ichiji's Sparking Red unleashes explosive energy. Niji's Electric Shock Blue gives him the power of electricity, Reiju's Poison Pink gives her poisonous attacks, and Yonji's Winch Green gives him an extending hand with immense grip strength. There was, of course, also Sanji's Stealth Black, which turned him invisible, but he decided that he'd just make his own invisibility by just going really fast instead, and we respect him for it. And since we're talking about wearable weapons here, I do want to quickly shout out the Frankie Shogun. While Frankie's ships and features like the Gao cannon on the Sunny don't really fit the vibe of this video, even though technically you could consider those weapons as well, there's one that I'm just not really sure if it counts, and that's the Frankie Shogun. I guess it really depends on whether you say that Frankie is wearing the Shogun or whether he's piloting it, and I guess I'm just gonna lean a little bit more on the piloting side, so maybe we should talk about it in more detail in like the most powerful One Piece vehicles video, but I just wanted to mention it here because obviously we know this thing is gonna have some crazy firepower at the end of the story too. And while we're on the Straw Hat train here, Nami definitely does need to rely on her weapon, so let's get into the Sorcery Clima-Tact. Thanks to one of the top 10 anime betrayals that was the homie Zeus abandoning the Yonko Big Mom to team up with her Nami, the Clima-Tact has got its biggest upgrade yet. This thing was already a very unique weapon in One Piece, not necessarily one of the most powerful right out of the gate, but a great way for her to make use of her navigational knowledge in a multitude of ways thanks to its ability to generate hot and cold air to manipulate the weather itself. But then once this thing got powered up with things like a literal piece of a Yonko soul, it did allow Nami to bust out her most OP move, Lightning Strike, now at complete will. And while it doesn't quite yet stack up to some of the crazy entries we've seen on this list so far, I do figure that being able to take down someone like Ulti, the most hard-headed of all of Kaido's henchmen, still earns it a place on this list, especially because I have a feeling that it will be able to do some truly ludicrous things by the end of the story. And while we're at it, we should probably also give a mention to another Straw Hat weapon here, Usopp's Kabuto. There are no slingshots in media with this crazy unique type of power, and depending on Usopp's ammunition, this thing can be pretty gnarly. Before the Elbaf arc, I honestly probably wouldn't have included it here at all, but after seeing him blow up half of Gunko's body, I've had a change of heart. It feels absolutely worthy of inclusion here. Moving on though, I hope you didn't skip Skypiea for a bunch of reasons, but specifically, remember dials? Because rejectiles are definitely one of the most dangerous weapons out there, at least depending again on who's using them. If it's been a while since you've revisited or watched Sky Island, dials are these shell-based technology with several different effects, but rejectiles specifically are a very advanced version of the impact dial, which has the power to absorb kinetic energy and then fire it back at a target. Rejectiles, however, amplify the absorbed energy by tenfold, and since it's unclear whether there's an upper limit to how much force you can actually store inside of such a dial, this thing could just potentially have an output of 10 times the strongest attack in One Piece, and even more since you can just hit it repeatedly and keep building up the force inside of them. The only problem, of course, is that the recoil of this attack will also damage the user, potentially if you go super crazy with it, killing them as well. This thing was already almost strong enough to kill someone like Enel, a Logia user, very early on in the story, and he would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddling electricity restarting his heart. After all, Logia fruits are some of the strangest and weirdest powers out there, and even unique amongst other devil fruits, but they're not the most unique, because there are some uniquely special devil fruits that just don't seem to follow the rules of devil fruits at all, that have some truly crazy special powers, and if you want to learn about all of them, I talk about them in this video right here. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in this next video.